The Carpenters. We've only just begun. Karen Carpenter's up here on the FM 100 talk show. Carl Goldman with you, and I must say, it's certainly good to have Karen Carpenter back up here.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure to be back. I must say that FM 100 was the first one in L.A. to go on, I believe you. And Richard and I both are very appreciative of that. We felt and feel that it's a beautiful tune. And every time I hear it, it makes me happier because it's got a beautiful message to it. And it, to me, when I first heard it finished, it had the same type of warmth to it that Close to You did, with all the big fat vocals and stuff. And it was really nice, and we were very happy when you guys went on it. And every time I hear it played, the jockeys have nothing but nice things to say about it. And that's terrific.
Well, let's put it on right now, okay?
Baby, I believe you. Honey, I love you.
Karen Carpenter, I Believe You. You're hearing it on FM 100. Karen, it's been 8 years already since Close to You came out, which is hard to believe, and it's hard to believe that you are only 28.
Right. We started trying to get a contract in '67 when I was 17. And back then I remember thinking, oh, if we don't have a hit record by the time I'm 20, I have to kill myself. And we just made it. Because right before I turned 20, the record went to #1. And I'm glad it did, because I didn't want to go anywhere, you know. And it was just out of the blue. Our first record, Ticket to Ride, which was released in '69, was kind of a half-hit, half-flop. In some places it was #1. Other places it was ashtray material. And then, lo and behold, Close to You was given to us by Herb Alpert, and we cut it, and it came out in late May of 1970, and within 6 weeks it was #1.
Close to You, Karen Carpenter. She's here on FM 100. The history books have the Carpenters down as being influenced by the 4 Bs, the Beatles, the Beach Boys, the Bee Gees, and Burt Bacharach. Bacharach, of course, wrote Close to You, right?
Right. He wrote it in 1963, and he had given the lead sheet of that tune to Herbie, and Herbie was reluctant to sing the song because of Sprinkled Moon Dust. So he just held on to the lead sheet. And in early 1970, we were going to do a benefit. We were going to open the show for Bacharach at a big benefit. And we were putting this huge medley together, and Herbie came strolling into the soundstage one day, and he said, I've got a song, maybe you might be able to use it in the medley. Well, long story short, it never did fit into the medley. But Richard kept playing it every day, and he says, I think we ought to cut this. And then Richard came up with the end, the wah. That wasn't part of the song. And we went in and cut it, and boom. I mean, it happened just overnight. But it took us 3 years to get a contract. No one in the world.
You were competing with an era of music that was exactly the opposite of what the Carpenters' image was. You won the Battle of the Bands at the Hollywood Bowl in the late 60s, and that really paved the way. Now the image sort of reflects what's happening with music, but back around 1970 it certainly did not. How do you look back to that and the clash that the Carpenters had, and the image, the wholesome image that the Carpenters had, with the conflicting image of rock music at the time?
Well, as you say, we came out right in the middle of the hard rock. It was hard rock everywhere. But we were ready to make our music, and we didn't do anything else, much less would we have wanted to do anything else. And it was such a turnaround that I guess it caught people by surprise. And a lot of people were obviously waiting for something in that vein. Because Richard and I still believe that there's enough people around to have all kinds of music. It doesn't have to be one kind. There's enough room for everybody. And we were the first. And around that time, it was the Carpenters and Brett. Then later it was James Taylor, Carole King. Then even later was Olivia and Barry. But we were really the first. And we didn't really plan it. It just kind of happened, And when it hit, boy, did it hit. It just exploded. And we were sitting here going, what happened? I mean, what happened? And at the time, in the middle of the hard rock thing, not only the music was different, but being a brother and sister team was, people were astounded. They'd never heard of it. We were the first brother and sister team since Fred and Adele Astaire. Well, that was a long time. And then much later was Donnie and Marie. But even duos, there weren't any duos. So, but again, I add, we didn't plan anything. We just kind of popped up. I'll say goodbye.
Karen Carpenter, she's here on FM 100. To go through your list of songs just from 70 to 73 or so is amazing. Look at the hits. Close to You, We've Only Just Begun, For All We Know, Rainy Days and Mondays, Superstar, It's Going to Take Some Time, Hurting Each Other, Yesterday Once More, Top of the World, Please Mr. Postman.
Thanks.
It's amazing. Between taking the Carpenters list and what David Gates and Brett were doing, you'd have an incredible array of material. Yet then the period from, let's say, 74 till now, there was a void of Carpenter material, a void of Brett material. All of a sudden, both of you are back again on the charts with new material, a little different sound, but something that's still very relatable to the old image. Why that gap, and why all of a sudden now have the two groups coincidentally worked their way up the charts again?
It's hard to explain. I really don't have an answer, because we kept putting out product. I mean, nature and just history proves that there are ups and downs, not only in this business, but in everything. There was a time like when Richard wanted to cut the Passage album, which was a kind of a different direction for us. We felt that we wanted to grow, and certainly not stray from our sound, but add to it, like an Occupants. I mean, when we released that, they didn't know where it was coming from. But Richard wanted to do that more than anything in the world. And when we got done with it, it turned into an epic. I mean, we figured it out. We spent more time on Occupants as we did on our third album. I mean, that was a job. And it was a masterpiece when Richard got done with it. But that was a thrill. A real thrill.
All Hit Radio.